as of right now, your boy Nicky Pringles is operating solely on faith. I'm putting myself on the line, my financial situation, my being. I have been meditating an average of 2 years ago. I had a spiritual awakening via a mushrooms trip. Kind of hard to talk about the first time because it's like hard to find the words. It's such a profound experience, and unlike because of my mushrooms experiences, I think that there's validity to all these truths. I think they've been buried since ancient times because we've gotten too far away from the connection, right, the source, and we've forgotten because we have amnesia in these bodies. I think is what has led to all. But in God's eyes, if I'm focused on God and I'm operating from the heart and I'm doing what I believe I'm supposed to be doing, right, you're good. It doesn't matter what you said, what you've done. And it was showing me, it was like all those judgments, those doubts, like how you perceive yourself, how you know, like, oh, if I'm not, didn't note. And it was like, so if you can achieve that vibrational frequency and hold that note, that is the reality that you're going to have, basically, or whatever. And it doesn't matter what it's like. He was like, he goes,
Ladies and gentlemen, the show is about to begin. The Irish Spaghetti Podcast. Like and subscribe. Please enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Irish Spaghetti Podcast. I will be your host for this evening, Nicky Pringles. How are ya? Billy G is still out for now. He's taking care of some personal things. I did speak with him. He will be returning at some point in time. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. He's going through a transitional period in his life. Not transitioning, like, you know. But, yeah, changes are being made. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to see him tomorrow, so hopefully he looks good when I do see him. And, I'm always with you, Billy. If you ever need anything, you know where to find me. Of course, I know you're doing okay. We talked today, but, while you're going through this, if you need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out. I got your back. I, as well, as you guys know, am going through a transitional period as well. So if you watched the last episode, you know that I just quit my job on the spot about 2 weeks ago because it was unhealthy for my soul. I went on to explain through that episode that about 2 years ago, I had a spiritual awakening via a mushrooms trip. Kind of hard to talk about the first time because it's like hard to find the words. It's such a profound experience, and unlike anything else you would normally be able to communicate. Like, there's not a good vocabulary for it until you kind of delve into it more and learn more about it and things like that. So since that day, I have taken a different approach to living my life, and I am now putting that to the test right now. So moving forward, while I'm doing these solo episodes, I'm going to use my real name because this whole exercise is an exercise in authenticity. And I'm doing this as more or less like a case study or like social study, kind of like an experiment, on top of the fact that I just believe it outright. I also want to see if it's true. We hear enough, dogma and bullshit in the world in general. Everyone has their beliefs, and every successful person will tell you how they did it after they've done it, but you never see the journey of someone who's actually trying to do it on the back end. So I'm hoping that this might satisfy that like gap in, outward experience. Like, a lot of people don't live this part up front. So I'm going to tell you exactly where I'm at, what I'm doing, and where things are. And we're going to see what happens to me. And we'll treat it like a case study. So if you're interested in some of these more esoteric, mystical type things, if you will, that people don't really have a good grasp on, especially not in this generation, things that were normal in ancient times that people just naturally understood and practiced every day, it was part of society and culture, has been washed away and just vanished from society. And because of experiences that I've had, like I talked about on the first episode, it's starting to be reawakened in me, and I am going full clip, seeing it through to see what happens next. So, all right, so here's the situation. So on the last episode, I talked about fear and the limitations of the fear state, basically, which is what I learned in the mushrooms trip. After, the only way I could put it is like the peek behind the curtain, like piercing the veil, or like talking to like God or the energy, or the invisible thing that is to us anyway in this state, that it actually is there, the infinite storehouse of intelligence, all the numerous names it's been called by. I've had multiple experiences with it. I only talked about that one experience last time just to kind of set the table. I will go deeper into this as we go. And of course, if anyone has any questions, drop a comment. If you're interested in hearing more about this, I love talking about it. But so here's where we're at this point in time. Lessons I learned were: let go of fear, trust God. If something is not in your heart to do not do it. Don't be afraid of the consequences. The real reason why we're here is to live authentically and, basically like find our true soul's expression and live according, in alignment to that nature. And that is what God honors, more or less. And that is what is good for you. And all this fake, like, oh, well, what about my job? And what about the bills? And what about the blah, blah, and all that? These are all just basically like illusions that keep us in a fear state, which keeps us detached from the power that we naturally have once we're realigned or reconnected. And this is what I've just been learning over the last couple of years. So I've put this to the test a couple of times. Again, I tell a couple of stories in episode 1. There are other ones, like I said before. Like there was another mushrooms trip that I had where I literally kind of came out of my body. Like I didn't see it necessarily, but I knew I was out, and I had these crazy memories come back, probably of like past lives or things like that. And it's a lot to take in. But basically, like, it wasn't the one and only time I had experienced something that was extraordinary to the point to where I couldn't look away from it. Being a man of like science and logic and reason, and not being a religious guy after the situation that I'd come from, which was the cult, which I was talking a little bit about on the first episode, these are not things that I would naturally be inclined to allow into my thought process or my belief systems, and you will. So it just very, very profound experiences. Let's just put it that way. And it's really hard to like tell you this, but I'm just speaking my book, right? This is what happened to me. It can happen to you too if you go, but you have to see for yourself. So what I seek to aim to do throughout the course of this little series here, at least until Billy comes back, is to put myself on the line and put these concepts to the test deeply and truly, and genuinely, authentically let you know exactly what's happening in my life and and like the progress that I'm making, or if it's bullshit and my life ends up falling apart, you're going to see that too. So this should be an interesting thing for everyone involved, because you guys get to watch someone really try to do this genuinely in real time without having already made it, and we'll see if my life changes, gets better, or where it ends up, in the interim. So stay tuned for this, because even I'm interested. I'm interested as well, and I'm putting it out there because I want to be held accountable. So I'm not going to bullshit. So as it stands, I have my house. I haven't worked in 2 weeks. I have $400 left to my name in my bank account. My car payment is due on the 9th. I'm going to have it deferred. My insurance is coming due in a couple of days. I don't have the money for rent. The job that I got fell through, which I'll talk about that because I think this is part of the whole universe thing. And according to all conventional wisdom and what most people would say, I'm in a bad way. However, I feel zero stress. I'm not afraid at all. I have no anxiety about this. And I've learned that that's something that happens when you're making the right decision. When you look inside your heart and you do the right thing, even if it seems scary on the outset, as soon as you step into it, all of a sudden you're alleviated. And I've learned that emotions are more than just feelings for the experience that we have. It's a language, a communication that you need to learn how to decipher more or less. So this is where I'm at now. So, and I'm only telling you that because coming from a guy who only worshiped logic and reason, my mantra used to be emotions are the enemy of logic. So that tells you what kind of guy I was before this. So this is a pretty already rapid change in general. And the experiences I've had have validated that this is the right path to walk. So where was I? Oh yeah, $400, blah, blah, blah. Job I had went through. So the job. So I think that the job falling through was a blessing in disguise. So I've learned to realize from practicing these modalities and from the results that I've gotten and the things that I've seen, is one of the things that it teaches you is that, yes, there is, like a whole other, there's way more. There's infinite amounts of realities. You do have support behind you. God is real. There is a safety net. You are okay. There is forces at play helping you, and you're more powerful than you realize. And when you listen to these things, because we're in our limited human capacity, we can only see so far ahead. It can see how things will connect and how like the intricacies will interplay with each other at a much larger level than you can. So it might seem crazy to our understanding in our limited experience here as human beings, but to it could see way more angles. It's just like, imagine like a regular person and then someone that took the limitless pill. Like that movie with Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro. That's what it's like, basically. So I've learned that every time I've trusted this, things that happen to me in my life that seem bad or like it was probably not the best thing that could have happened to me or whatever, ended up being a great thing. And only after the fact, in a way that I never would have saw coming, did it show itself to be a good thing, right? So just follow that idea for a minute. So in this case, right, I quit my job, nothing behind it, story. I'm applying for jobs, so I've learned how to kind of put out there, because you can even see a few episodes back, I was telling Billy how I don't even think manifesting is necessarily real, and now here I am trying to practice it not 2 weeks later. This is how rapid these things happen once you get into the spiritual path, if you will. So anyway, what I learned from my experiences without like learning how to consciously manifest exactly what you're looking for was, it told me to just trust him, like, or whatever, it's no gender. Trust me. It said, trust me. I'm taking care of you. And when I would do that, whatever was going on in my life, no matter how severe it appeared, when it came to like a critical point or a head, if you will, there was always the solution I needed happen right when I needed it. It was always in the best way, and it was always a surprise, and it was always interesting. And it's like, it's almost like it demands faith of you on a pretty high level. It demands faith. And then when you walk in that faith, you get rewarded, but you never know how until afterwards. So it always appears scary, but then it's not. So this has happened to me multiple times. So that's why this exact situation I'm not really freaking out about yet, but we're going to see what happens to me, as I said. So I put in for a bunch of jobs. I put out into the universe because I'm not good at consciously manifesting, as I was saying just a minute ago. Whatever the right job is for me or the right circumstance, doesn't even have to be a job. Wherever I'm supposed to be, that's where I want to end up. So I'm going to make my own, physical efforts. I'm not going to rest on my laurels and just assume that everything's just going to fucking happen to me, right? Right? You can't do that. I mean, who are we kidding? So I'm going to show God that I'm still willing to work, So I'm out there, I'm putting in jobs, applications, I'm seeing what's coming back to me. Every time I get an interview, I send it out to the universe. If this is the right one, let it go according to the way it's meant to go, and I'll end up where I'm supposed to be. If it's not, I accept that result as well. Whatever happens, happens. And then I submit that out. This is my practice. And then I just let it go and I don't think about it anymore. So now, right? So you're thinking, I just quit my job. I had that DUI. I talked about it on a few episodes back. Actually, 6 months ago, we were talking about the DUI, right? That's still pending. That's not done yet. So that was about 8 months ago, actually. So 8 months ago, I got this DUI. So I quit my job. The DUI is going to start in April, like all the court stuff and all that shit. In the meantime, I quit the job. I get the interview at Mazda. I was going to go sell cars. They gave me the job right on the spot. Good job, too. It's not like a bullshit. I would have solved all my problems instantaneously. And they do a background check. I get a text from the guy the next day, and he goes, "Is your license revoked?" I never got anything in the mail. So apparently my license is revoked. And for the last 8 months, I've just been driving around thinking my license was valid because I never received anything from the DMV. And I had a revoked license with a DUI pending. So if I had gotten pulled over at any time in the last 8 months, I'm going right back to fucking jail. They don't want to hear a story. They don't care that I wasn't informed and blah, 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 right to jail. So in my mind, I'm remembering my lessons. I'm like blessing in disguise. If I never quit my job, I would have never went for this job. I would have never had the background check run. They would have never found that my license was revoked. And God only knows what could have happened to me during that time when I was driving around unaware, right? So I just I'm counting my blessings. That's information that I needed. So now, at this point, job also, I said $400, blah, blah, blah. License is revoked. I can't drive anymore. But now I know, so I already feel blessed in that way. Because again, do you know how bad that would have been? Do you know how bad it would have been? If they picked me up with a revoked license after getting a DUI, it would have seemed like the biggest fuck you to like the courts and the system. And that was not what I was trying to do. It would have been atrocious. So I'm very grateful for that. So in the meantime, that falls through. And now I'm looking for jobs. My friend suggested I get a work from home job. Genius, right? I don't have to drive. I don't got to worry about the DUI and the license and all that bullshit, commuting to and from work without a car. So I'm like, great. So I'm applying for jobs doing that. But in the meantime, every day I've been taking up these meditation practices. And this is really what I wanted to talk about, because those are the surrounding circumstances. And we're going to see how like me changing the way that I approach my life and my thought processes and my understanding of reality, if it has a dramatic or any notable impact on my actual external circumstances. So I want you guys to watch this with me. So this is what I'm doing. So outside of learning how to submit things up and like listen to the cues and follow my intuition in your heart, because these are all languages that you learn that they're actually communicating. It is from the other side. Work from the other side. That part I'm not confused about. Like it was put in my face on no uncertain terms that there's no such thing as death. There's only a succession of states. Time is only relevant on this planet. There is no corrosion anywhere else. You're infinite. All that was made abundantly clear to me. So that's why I'm inclined to believe some of the other things that go with like meditation. So we've all heard of, the manifesting thing, visualizing and all that. I've tried that stuff before. It didn't seem to work for me, but what else? Like remote viewing, you could like heal yourself or becoming telepathic and things like that. And I've always just been like, yeah. Like, all right, I believe in God now and all that's great. And I know that telepathy exists because it talked to me telepathically. It doesn't mean I could do it to you. Like, baby steps, right? So after this happens, about like a week ago or whatever, I go over to my girlfriend's house and she's like, "Do you want to do another mushrooms trip?" And I'm like, you know what? Perfect timing. I'm in a very transitional phase in my life. I could use some guidance if it's out there. And if not, we'll just have a great time. Either way, it's a stress reliever. Whatever happens, happens. Set your intention, never ask expectations. Don't look for an outcome because then you're going to block it from happening is what I've learned from this, right? So it taught me that when you think, you're like shutting that valve off more or less. When you think like with this rational brain. And you learn how to distinguish the different voices between intuition, when you're like thinking rationally from like when you're actually the one consciously thinking about a problem versus when something kind of enters your mind. And you'll learn all that if you ever practice this stuff. So interestingly enough, I come across these tapes, and I had done like some guided meditations before, like nothing crazy. My friend sent me a couple, very pretty straightforward stuff. I had good effects from it as far as like when you're not always overthinking and overanalyzing, and you keep your mind quiet and in the present, it teaches you how to rewire, and it gives you less anxiety. It makes you more aware. And when you're more present all the time, you're using more of your mind's energy to process what's actually happening. So I've noticed my vision's improved a bit, like considerably enough, because I'm paying attention all the time. So I'm not thinking about other shit all the time because I'm interrupting that thought process. Colors are way more vibrant. My creativity is coming back. My imagination is starting to light up again, where I could like imagine more vividly, kind of like more like when I was a kid. You lose that as you go. At least some of us do. I certainly did too. And I was always a highly imaginative guy. And my sense of humor is coming back. There's like a lightness to me. A lot of my physical symptoms that I was going through, I was really fucked up, man. Like I was having all kinds of problems. Like I have this autoimmune thing. I'm sure stress is a trigger, but a lot of that has subsided or gone away just from that alone, which is showing me like one of the other lessons I got in the first trip was listen to your body, because your body's talking to you more or less. But we teach ourselves how to ignore all this shit and just push through it. So my upbringing was don't be a bitch, like pain don't hurt type deal. That's what being a man is. Just get through it. Just do what you got to do. Shut up and just bear it. Like a man doesn't like talk about his problem. He just handles it silently himself. These are all the words. It sounds good on paper. It does. And I mean, I'm not saying that there's no time to be brave or to soldier on, or you shouldn't have that power inside you, because there are times where it's necessary. But even when you're in one of those times, you should always be connected to that which is, to God, and understand that just because like God's in your life and you're walking your true path and it's what you're supposed to be doing doesn't mean that it's a free ride to just absolute it's not a water slide. There's going to be an inherent amount of challenge and pain. That's where the growth process comes from. I'm sure whatever part of your work is here on this planet, not on a physical level, but like on a soul level, if you will, there's going to be hardships to overcome. You're going to have to set an example to the people around you, which means challenges. But all those things I welcome. If you're anything like me, what kills me or killed me inside and taxes me to no end is suffering and being demeaned for virtually nothing. And what I mean by that is like, I've worked out my whole life. I don't mind suffering. I've done hard jobs. I taught myself how to skateboard, got my, you fucking break shit. You're always skidding. You're getting fucked up when you skateboard. Loved it. Went out there every day, limping, hobbling, didn't matter. Went through all that shit, but they were always a labor of passion when I suffered and I felt that the suffering was good or valuable. Any other time, it's been me forcing myself to be in an environment or a job situation that my heart does not want to be in, that I don't agree with on a fundamental level, and telling myself, well, it is what it is. That's just what life is. Not everyone's privileged. Just don't be a bitch and just get through it. And forcing myself through years and decades of this shit. And it has taken a toll on my body, which led up to the point of the mushrooms trip, which if you watch the other episode, you'll hear about. So back to the point. So where was I actually? Oh, yeah. So basically like learning how to meditate and things like this. So I had done some basic meditations before, and out of nowhere, so this is interesting too, because like after you have your first like spiritual experience, awakening, like a mushrooms trip or DMT, it doesn't matter what it is. Even if you're just meditating, sometimes God just comes to people in traumatic states, maybe an NDE, whatever yours might be. Like you're going to know that it's that, right? And you're going to start noticing one thing immediately, at least from my experience, and then also friends around me that came into my life after my first experience and I'll tell you those stories as well. They've had these experiences too, which validates mine in my own mind, because I'm watching it happen to them. And I'm like, oh, it's not just me. Like people I know that are fresh to it, that don't have any faith, have had these experiences since coming into my world or, my life, or vice versa, whatever the fuck. So, so you're going to start noticing synchronicities, and it's not just coincidences of, oh, like I thought about my grandma and then she called, it's not just shit like that. Synchronicities that are unignorable to the point to where you're like, huh. And I learned once you start paying attention to these synchronicities, they're actually messages, and they're telling you to do things. And if you get good at picking up the clues and following it, it leads you to better places. They're breadcrumb trails from the other side to help you stay on your path, because you do have a path. It's not just this basic generic shit that we were taught where it's like, oh, we're all just born and like, oh, what are our goals? Get a good job, have a family, take care of your mom, buy her a house, blah, blah. This is what everybody wants. I've learned to cast all that shit aside and never try to like generalize what anyone's true experience should be. Some people are meant to just be fucking beach bums. That's literally what they came down here to experience. It's not there is not one version of success that's the end all be all for every person. Like, I'm an Andrew Tate guy. I like the fucking guy, right? I used to be a lot like him in my 20s, actually, a lot more than I am now, but I still like the dude. And I respect a lot of what he does and his strength and iron mind and all that stuff. And those are good things to teach and those are good lessons to live. But his life experience is tailor-made to his purpose, like his soul's purpose of being here. So that's something that you learn from like the mushroom trips, is that everyone's experience and what happens to them, it could be similar insofar as like it reveals itself to you, but how it reveals itself to you or how it teaches you is going to be uniquely specific to you alone. So there are some overarching things like the synchronicities happens to everybody, but there's other things that are going to be just for you because you need to develop a personal relationship with this, and then it teaches you on a you to it basis, if you will. So like, for instance, my girl, I'll tell you another story that's pretty shocking about, how the supernatural stuff seems to be working. After the mushrooms trip, I started paying attention to this. I quit the job, blah, blah, blah. I'm not working. I get the job at Burger Brasserie, led there by the cues and the synchronicities and all that. Meet Billy. Then the lady in the kitchen says the thing. We start the show. Now I had a girlfriend when I was there for a little bit. We break up. So now I'm like, all right, I'm going to level with you. I used to be a fucking man whore, right? I wasn't a player. I wasn't a game player. Like, I didn't like lie to girls or like mislead or anything like that. But I like women. Let's just put it that way. I always told them the truth, but that was my shit, right? So I rarely am ever in a committed relationship normally. So I get out of this relationship and I'm like, I want to go back to Nicky Classic. I just want to have some fun for a while. So I get hooked up on these apps, and I'm not an apps guy. Nicky lived his life in person. I'm used to talking to girls at bars, like all that shit. I'm not used to this keyboard warrior horse shit crap, but whatever. New generation, adapt or die. So I set up, Rumble. I set up fucking, Tinder and all that shit. I am hooking up with a couple of girls. One of them is this gorgeous Latina girl, super, super pretty girl, and I'm a Latina fan, right up my alley, everything I would normally want. We just started seeing each other, so it was like at the good part of it and everything like that, and I'm still like messing around on Tinder and stuff, and like I'm not trying to date this girl, we're just like having a good time, so I'm not trying to I don't want it to seem like I'm like, oh, fuck that bitch, like, we're together, but I'm seeing her. No, she was in the middle of getting a divorce, she had gotten her own place, like it was good for both of our situation, right? Understand? So I'm on Tinder, right, and I'm kind of swiping through whatever, and I see this profile picture of the woman that I'm dating now, Jenny, and just like everything else, like my mind just shut off, and something inside of me goes, talk to her. And I've learned to, whenever I get this cue, because I've had it happen so many times now that I know the voice, like I know the cue. It comes with like a physical cue for me, and I know that it's not me thinking that, and I need to just fucking pay attention to that right now. So it goes, talk to her. So I'm like, fine. I shoot her a message. I'm like start chatting with her and this, that, and the other thing in a short amount of time. And I tell her, because I'm actually pretty spiritual at this point. I'm like, look, no one's in my world if they're not supposed to be. I don't know why I'm supposed to talk to you, but my intuition's telling me that I'm supposed to. That's why I am. And I'm saying shit like this to a girl that I just met, which might be scary to someone who's not like initiated in these types of things. It might seem like I'm a bit much, right? So she's just like, chatty about it or whatever. She's like, hey, let's meet up one day. So we meet up, we're hanging out, we're having a great time. We obviously clicked. There was clearly something there between us. It was interesting. It was different, right? So there was something there. So as I'm starting to get to know this woman in a short amount of time, within, I'd say, weeks, we start talking about all this stuff. I showed her some of the things that I'd written in these states. And she was telling me that she is not religious, doesn't believe in God, but she's had an interest in these things. We had similar worldviews, at least my previous one before the mushrooms versus where she was at then. And I told him, listen, this is what happened to me. And I'm like, you could tell by talking to me that I'm not a weird guy. I'm not like a mystical dude. I don't ride a magic carpet and shit. You know what I mean? I'm a drinker. You guys see me on here. I'm doing fucking Adderall before the show. I'm getting hammered half the time. I'm high. I'm smoking weed. You know what I mean? I'm like, you've seen me on here doing all kinds of shit. I'm a normal dude. I'm a regular ass, like kind of party guy. That's what I was, smart guy, highly driven and all that shit. But I like to have a good time. I'm no saint is how I would say it. So anyway, so I was telling him, like, yeah, I was this, how I am, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, and this happened to me despite the fact that I came out of a cult, like renounced faith, all that. And this still happening. I was like, and I believe that it's not a fluke. I don't think that it was just that I'm on drugs. I think mushrooms are not drugs. I think it's like a telephone call that you make. And I think depending on where your heart is at and what your intentions are, it delivers what you're looking for. And that's why I don't think everyone has this experience every time they take it. I think it has to be wanted, more or less. So, and she was like, yeah, that's great that happened to you. She's like, I would love to do mushrooms with you one day. She's like, maybe that'll happen to me. But her whole thing, and she told me this after that, she was like, I never was like, oh, that'll happen to me. I was just like, oh, I'm glad that he had that experience. Seems nice for him, but not me, right? So we fucking do mushrooms. And I tell her, I'm like, look, this is what you take. I'm like, just ask it for the truth. And I'm like, and let it go. And I'm like, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Whatever happens, happens. She goes, yeah. We take the mushrooms. We throw on Rick and Morty, right? And her mushrooms start to kick in, and she gets like body highs, and she's all like, having fun with it and all that stuff. And just like mine, where like it like it makes you very uncomfortable because it starts to teach you, and it has to like break you down before it could build you back up. All of a sudden, her face changes, and she's like, I need to go outside. And I'm like, go where you got to go. Like, I'm in the zone, in my own zone at this point. She walks outside. She comes back in like 20 minutes later crying. And she was like, because it was like same thing it did to me. It was showing me the error of my ways, and like it's things that are painful for you to have to face, right? But she goes, it came to me, and it's talking to me right now. And I'm like, go outside and deal with it. Like, you should be out there. But she was kind of running from the experience, so she forces herself. Well, she goes outside, right? And then she comes back in later, and then she has about 4 hours, same as me, of experiences with this thing. I had a whole separate trip that was profound as well in the same time, but we were in the same house, but we were not in the same trip. She was like walking around the house. I heard her like having full-blown conversations with it. She told me that everything that I explained her about how everything is made out of energy and there is no, it's all one material and all that stuff. She said that she saw that visually. Everything that I said to her, she was like, you were exactly accurate. She like, it showed it to me, but she actually sees the grid. I asked her, I was like, is this something that like you like hazily see, or is it kind of half and half out? She's like, no, as detailed as I'm looking at you, she's like, I could see it when I'm like, it showed her the energy state of reality, more or less, right? Simulation, all that crap. So anyway, so after that, she became a believer, and I'm paraphrasing her story as well. If she ever wants to come on here and tell it, you're more than welcome to hear that. But basically the same thing happened to her, profound, changed her life. Now she's all in on this stuff too, right? And we've had multiple trips since. So back to the trip that she invited me to have last week. You want to come to the house, quit my job, Want to have a trip? Yeah, it's a good time. I would like some guidance. Now is a good time for me to, kind of dial back in, and whatever happens, happens. Take the mushrooms. We're at the house or whatever. Hers kicks in. She starts having her thing, and mine's just kind of like in the background. Normally, I don't like peak until like 2.5 hours until it like kicks in, but it's always different. So, take it with a grain of salt. So in my head, I'm like, it just might not be this time. So this time I'm laying on the couch, and I had found these meditation tapes about 2 or 3 days prior, the CIA tapes, the Monroe Institute tapes, right? I just heard about these, and I had done other meditations, like I said, but when I put these ones on, especially the first one, immediately I reacted to it. I was like buzzing, like I could feel it. Something was happening. I'm like, oh, these are interesting. So I start doing these meditations, and they teach you a myriad of skills, and eventually you could astral project like outer body experiences, which I'm interested in. I'm trying to achieve that now. So you'll hear about that if it ever happens, but I'm not sure about that, right? I'm just practicing it. So I'm suspending disbelief. So anyway, so I'm practicing these meditations, and as I'm doing them, like I said before, my focus is increasing. I'm more in the present. My senses are heightened because I'm not, thinking. But these are all things that you would expect from not just being scatterbrained, right? So I'm like, all right, like let's not delve into the like I could see the future stuff yet, right? This is just base one, but it's had a profound effect. Point being, like, even if there's nothing else, it's definitely worth practicing just for that alone. It's amazing. But I want powers. I want to fucking fly. I want to see other dimensions. Your boy wants telepathy. Like, I'm trying to get powers, right? We're gonna find out. So anyway, so I practiced for a couple of days. We have the mushroom trip. So halfway through the trip, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden, I'm laying on the couch, and she's on the couch too. And I'm in my own head, though. I have my eyes closed, 'cause I was trying the meditation techniques on the mushrooms. I was like, maybe this will amplify it. I'm an explorer, right? I like to experiment with shit and find out for myself. I like it to be me that does it, right? Not just read them. I read books, but I also want to try. So I get frustrated because I can't get it to work the way that I want it to work or whatever in the mushroom. So I'm like, fuck. So I start getting mad, right? I start throwing a little bit of Nicky turns into a bit of a baby on this one. I was pissed. I'm like, just show me the truth. Like in my head, but I'm like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like getting frustrated with this. Meanwhile, I've only done this for like 3 days at this point in time. Like I'm supposed to, in my mind, I think I'm supposed to be like a master meditator in 3 days, because that's how my crazy mind is. Like nothing's ever good enough. I'm such a type A nut job, right? That's why I get good at shit, but in the meantime, it's taxing. So after I throw my fit or whatever, about 20 minutes later, it comes to me again, right? And instead of it just talking to me, it was a hands-on class. And this is what it started to show me. First, I started getting tinnitus in my ear. Just, like that, the ear ringing, right? The ee. But it's obviously not a physical thing. I just have this tinnitus now. Then it starts talking to me, and it starts showing me images while it's talking to me. And my eyes are closed, but I'm seeing this in clear as day. It refreshes the first lesson. It shows me a channel like this, right? Like, so like two walls like this, and it shows this energy flowing through this like pipe, if you will. And there's this valve on top. And every time I would think, the valve would come down and pinch the energy from flowing, pinch the water off, right? And every time I would stop, and then it would start flowing again. And it started telling me, it was like, only focus on me. Do not focus on anything else. And when I would focus on and it was the tinnitus, like it was like, focus on this, focus on me. Because when you're focused on that, you're not thinking, because you're just hearing that and you're trying to concentrate on that sound. So it was giving me like an audio cue to help me, right? It was teaching me and helping me at the same time. So I'm listening to it, right? And then I see the valve come up and the energy starts flowing. And as this is happening, it shows me my own brain. And it shows the logical mind like encrusted on top, more or less. And underneath it is like the like pineal gland. And it's like, when you're not thinking, when I stopped thinking, I saw like the energy flowing through the channel. It showed my brain popping off and coming off. And it was like, it was showing all of my life experience, my image of myself, who I believe myself to be, how I view and judge myself in the outside world according to my experiences in this time. All that was popping off with the brain when I wasn't thinking and floating away. And it was saying, nothing that you've ever done or ever said or nothing that you ever were has ever mattered. All that matters is that you focus on me and that you walk in this way. And it was like, it doesn't matter what you've done in the past. Judgment is a man-made concept. Like as far as just like in the Bible, it doesn't matter what you've done your whole life. If you come back and receive God, which these are all metaphors, by the way, for getting connected back to it and just realizing that this is the truth and this is the right thing, and then serving that, all your sins get washed away, for lack of a better word. And it was showing me on no uncertain terms that with him, or with it, whatever you want to call it, that's what's true. Maybe I'll go to jail here, but in God's eyes, if I'm focused on God and I'm operating from the heart and I'm doing what I believe I'm supposed to be doing, right, you're good. It doesn't matter what you said, what you've done. And it was showing me, it was like all those judgments, those doubts, like how you perceive yourself, how you like, oh, if I'm not always working, I'm lazy. This is something that I was taught. So I used to have a crazy anxiety about constantly being busy and active. Otherwise, I felt guilty. And it's like, all these things stop you from focusing on me, which stops you from healing, which stops you from being of use, which stops you from growing and evolving. It's like it was showing me like counter to popular culture. It was showing me how like basically like therapy is not necessarily the way. It's like you don't need to rehash this shit and dig it up and understand why and realize where it came from. It was like, you need to know my truth and just follow me, and all that will just melt off of you. You don't need to spend 30 years digging through when dad hit me that fucking time at the baseball game and that's the reason why I can't pee in public. Fucking bullshit. It was like, forget, just, and it kept saying, it's like, just let it go. Just let it go. Literally, you don't have to justify, validate. Just fucking let it go. So now I'm in the game now, hyper focused. The brain's coming off all my fucking bullshit, all my like weird neuroses and shit that we all accrue over the course of our tenure here. These are just fucking washing away, and I'm just feeling lighter, and I'm feeling happier, and I'm feeling more vibrant. So now I'm in the pocket, and here's the channel, whatever, and then the frequency's in my ear, right? And then now I'm looking at the coffee table, so like the brain image thing goes away. I learned that lesson apparently, or whatever. It's gone now. And it's showing me the coffee table with the tinnitus. It's going, and the coffee table's moving. It's going like this, right? And then it goes raise the pitch. So in my head, I'm like, okay. I'm like give me 2 more octaves, right? Like I try to like subconsciously boost it, and I hear it go and get like higher frequency, and it's like like buzzing louder, right? And I'm like holding that note for a while, and it goes, all of reality is nothing more than one of these frequencies that's being held at a consistent note. Okay. Wait, hold on. Did this shut off? No, we're good. That's being held at this consistent note. And it was like, so if you can achieve that vibrational frequency and hold that note, that is the reality that you're going to have, basically, or whatever. And it doesn't matter what it's like. That he goes, this is how all of creation is. This is how I have created. Everything has its own frequency. And he holds that note. And everything that you see, everything that exists is all a frequency of some kind or a combination, whatever. Basically, more or less. And it was showing me how like radio waves work, and how like when your soul is like vibrating at a high frequency, if you actually look at like a radio signal, it's not a consistent one-way flow. That's why there's hertz and cycles. It's a like burst, like one wave, one wave, one wave. But it's super fast. So when it goes super fast, it appears as one laser beam, right? But it's really a massive vibration of a shit ton of like rotations or whatever you hertz, right? That's happening. It's like same thing with your soul. When you get your soul vibrating super fast, right? You have like this laser beam concentration of energy, more or less, and you could plug in to different realities. Not even just like manifesting like material stuff or whatever. You know what I mean? Nothing like that. That's part of it. It was telling me that was part of it too, more or less, like right through the lesson. But it was saying like, you know, like imagine if there was another realm you wanted to go to. If you were in like your ethereal being and you had power over the frequencies that you were able to generate, just like in your car. This is kind of how it was explained to me. It was, imagine if you have your radio dial and you can go to 92.6 or 107.5, and you could just do that, right? Because you have power over it. Well, you could learn how to intuitively do this in your being via practicing these meditations, which is like going to the gym for your mind and accumulating your own powers, getting back in touch with these subtle energies that it takes practice to be able to identify. But when they come back online, you're back to like your truer form and power, and then you'll have control over that radio dial and you could pick what you want to watch, more or less. Like I'm paraphrasing a lot of this, but this is kind of basically what it was telling me. And it was basically validating that the meditative practices that I was doing, which are all focused on exactly what we're talking about now, are valid. And so I was like, oh, after that mushroom trip, I'm like, oh, I'm going all in on this. So I'm not a guy who likes to like, you know, pull my punches, right? If I'm going to hit the board, I'm going to go right through. I'm breaking that shit. I'm a guy who I like to know. Written on the fucking stone, the tablets of my heart, etched in stone, were always the words, go and see. I've always been a curious guy. I don't like to hear it second or third hand. That might pique my interest or generate curiosity, but unless I know for myself, I don't know. I'm not a person who just believes in just having blind. I have faith until I have knowing, okay? You know what I mean? Like I think that I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with not believing because you don't know. Just because I think that something is probably true doesn't mean that I know it is, but I have the faith to see it, to look into it. So as of right now, your boy Nicky Pringles is operating solely on faith. I'm putting myself on the line, my financial situation, my being. I have been meditating an average of 1 to 2 hours per day via these tapes, trying to master each step. I am at about like step 4 or 5, but I'm still getting better and better at it. I have quit smoking cigarettes. I'm on day 4 because, you know, when you're trying to meditate, your throat's scratchy and you always have like a little bit of phlegm and shit when you're smoking. It's gross. But it's like you can't concentrate when you're like, right? So I'm like, I quit smoking. I'm not drinking right now. Like I did a 2-day fast to clean my body out because all these things raise your vibrational state, your frequency. And my goal, and here's the ultimate, is if I can achieve an out-of-body experience, because I've been like there's people that are out there like Darius Wright and like certain that I've run into, even the guy this dude Eric something on Patrick Bet-David's podcast. He was like a plumber for the fucking CIA, and he talks about like them being like he's a remote viewer too. He was talking about like remote viewing and how all these things are real. And this was months before I found the CIA tapes, which I thought another synchronicity. I thought was interesting. Like 2 months before the CIA tapes, I saw that interview and he talks about all this shit, and I remember being like, I think that guy's telling the truth. Then I found the CIA tapes, blah, 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 mushroom ship. Now I'm practicing it. So I'm practicing these things at a breakneck pace. Like I'm hitting this hard. So all of them talk about having outer body experiences and not like astral projection where it's like this vague, you're like in like a lucid dream type state. They talk about it like if you can get this right, you can exit your body and you could turn around, look at your body on the bed, and leave and like explore other realms anywhere in the world. And they all say the same. They say that it is more real than this reality. Like you're supposed to be like it's visceral. It's not like some vague like did it really happen? No. Like they're like no. On no uncertain terms do you realize that this is like the illusion, if you will. I hate using that term, but you get it. That this is the fucking illusion, and that's the reality. So I'm like, all right. That to me, from like all the breadcrumb trail that I've been following and all the setup, right? That to me is the ultimate proof for me. So I'm going to be practicing this. And if your boy can fucking get out of this body, man, and see for myself, I will be sure to let you know. And here's the thing. And let me tell you the reason why I want to do this. It's not just because having powers is awesome, right? Who doesn't want fucking powers? It's not to be rich and famous. It's not even that. I just want to know the truth. All throughout, how do I say this perfectly? Like the way that the world has worked, I've been an observer of this my whole life. The corruption, the fucking fear mongering, the beating people down, using people, putting like just fucking what? Like you fucking have a company, you make hundreds of millions of dollars, you pay your executives fucking $100 million each, and we make $40,000. You can't even get to and from work, crumbs off the table. Everyone's lying to you. Religious people prey on people's fear and insecurity and like their trauma, if you will, to make them give them money. Even the people that teach these meditations and these out-of-body experiences, they tell you all about how it's the birthright and how every person has this ability and it's what God wants is for us to remember all this stuff. Give me $300. Give me $500. Oh, really? You know how to fly out of your body? You know how to manifest reality, but you want my $300? So the reason why this is extremely important to me is because of my mushrooms experiences, I think that there's validity to all these truths. I think they've been buried since ancient times because we've gotten too far away from the connection, right? The source. And we've forgotten because we have amnesia in these bodies. I think is what has led to all these neuroses, all the problems we have in the world, all the health issues that we're seeing, the pain, the suffering, the sadness, the depression. I think it all comes from this. And if I can personally achieve this, which is why I'm putting it out now before it's actually happened. Because if you see my life fucking turn around like that, you're going to know exactly what I did. And I'm going to teach this shit. If I could pull this off and I could validate that it's true, my mission in life, my goal is to tell as many people as humanly possible that it is the truth, how it works, and how they can have the experience for themselves. Give this information away for free. I will never charge a dime for this. This is something that's this is what's important to me. This is what fucking drives me nuts. I'll never, if I could figure out that this works and I could teach you guys this shit, if they like say like someone says, oh, can you come speak at this fucking whatever thingy, and we'll pay you $120,000, I will say no. I'd rather chronicle it live here on the show for free and put it out to everyone, because if this is true, everyone really needs to know it. I'm tired of these predator motherfuckers taking advantage of it. So there you go. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to find out whether or not this is legit, and you guys are going to find out with me unless you go and see for yourselves. But if you don't want to and you want to see me take all the risk, by all means, I'd be more than happy to have you on the ride. That's what the fuck I'm doing right now. So the things that we're looking out for outside of like the meditation practices, and if I actually achieve an outer body experience, which this camera will fire up so fast, it'll be a fucking 9-hour episode. Y'all be very excited, okay? But in the meantime, let's see if God's got my back, huh? Let's see if God's got my back. Let's see what happens with this financial situation, with my living situation. I'm gonna blindly. This is my problem. I'm going to blindly follow my heart no matter what. If it means losing my car, if I have to move somewhere else, whatever it is. As long as my heart feels content, I feel like I'm walking on my path, whatever the external consequences around me are, I'm going to allow that to happen and trust that even if it appears bad, it's probably going to end up better in the end, and we're going to see for ourselves. Because if I pull this off again and this all gets reconfirmed, none of us have to fucking be terrified of shit ever again. We don't have to live like this, man. I don't think we do. I think that it will absolutely, no matter what. It always takes bravery. It takes courage. It takes faith. It takes perseverance. You have to trust. You have to let go. You have to be willing to take that risk. But at the very least, if I can prove it on some level, it could probably be easier for other people or future generations. And the easier it gets and the more people that realize it, the more people are going to start singing this tune. And then the more people that are going to adopt it. And that's what's going to change the whole world, right? Not focusing on fucking policies and politics and like, oh, how do we do police from? If the world becomes awakened and we get back into alignment, if all this is real and all this is true, and the base state of human nature is actually love, but we've been severed from that, so we're in fear, which creates all these problems, then the solution to the world's problems, if you want to create a paradise on earth, it's for people to be enlightened and to practice these things, because then they'll naturally fall into the harmony of God's will, which is to take care of each other and do the right things. And these problems will naturally vanish. Instead of trying to micromanage, we're trying to hold up mud walls. That's what we're doing in the way that we're doing it now. So while everyone else is laser focused on the news and on the problem in Syria and fucking the wall and how do we and whose fault was it and who passed the fucking bill in the first place, and actually in 1970, well, everyone's doing all that. I'm going to be doing this. And I'm not laughing at that. I'm not even saying I might be the fool, man. I might be fucking right. We're going to find out if I'm crazy or not. But this is my work. This is what I want to do. This is what I want my contribution to be in this world. I want to find the truth. I want to tell you guys the truth for free. if I ever even wrote a book, I'm not going to sell it. I will pay for a website and I'll put it out there for free. I'm tired of this charging shit. If you have a God-given message that the world needs to hear, you're sitting here telling me it's my birthright to be able to know this and have these abilities, but it's not my birthright for less than $300 or whatever the fuck it is. Nah, I'm taking the ball back, guys. If I get, so I'll make a couple of promises too. Say this channel picks up, for instance. Maybe this is the medium, because I've always felt that it was like my role in life to do basically what I'm trying to do right now, but I've never had like any avenue. So let's say the channel picks up and I monetize this channel for talking about all this stuff. I won't take money from any of you. If somebody wants to advertise on my channel, I believe in the product and they want to pay me a couple of bucks so I don't have to go to work and be baptized in the insanity of this horrible fucking situation that we've created, this modern era of nonsense and lack and terror and fucking greed and stupidity and self-oppression. Fuck that, man. I'm trying to get the fuck out of that. I want out. So what I'm looking for is this. Quick, two things. So I will never charge you guys. If someone wants to pay me to advertise on the show, I will first test the product myself, make sure that I actually believe in it. And then and only then will I actually take that money to do it. Me and Billy like to entertain. I would be happy to collect money for entertaining when Billy comes back. If we want to do like road shows, we want to sell tickets, we want to get the show monetized, create merchandise, that'll be separate from this saga. If this ends up taking off and this does well, what I'm doing right now, I will create a separate channel for it and preserve this for me and Billy, because I love the comedy entertainment show that we do. Absolutely, I can't wait to have him back. But my heart is really, really, really in this. Right? This is my purpose as far as I'm concerned. So I'm just telling you this right now. Hold me accountable for it's on camera. I'm not taking your fucking money or anybody else's. They could pay me. If I ever did do a speaking arrangement, for instance, say that they wanted to hear it and I couldn't convince them to just watch it on the podcast for free because I don't want to take their money, any money that they paid me in the future, I will refund back to these people, or I'll find a way to not take that money. You know what I mean? Like and by giving it back to the consumer, I don't want it. People shouldn't be charged for this shit. It's not a fucking business, man. It's a birthright, right? It's not a business. So ultimately, my overall goal, if all this works out, this is some grandiose shit, right? It's pretty crazy. My overall goal is to I want to generate as much notoriety, financial wealth, and wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as humanly possible, and then I want to take all that to get this message out, right? To tell people what they need to hear and use that money. What I want to do is I want to destroy these fucked up systems that take advantage of human beings to like just for profit. So for instance, like I would like to open up a business, right? Whatever it is, like doesn't matter. Fucking name it. Hardware store, I don't care. Competing with like a very, very prominent business that already exists and pay my CEOs like $200,000 a year and pay all my employees like $100,000 a year. So like, I'm just giving you an idea. The idea is this, is that if you create something new that works, right, that's not in this old fucked up system, legacy companies that are designed to take advantage of you will have to respond to the competition that I'm creating, because I will poach all the good talent and pay everyone at a reasonable price and show that you don't have to fleece human beings to make a buck or to live a decent life. And it's not all about the bottom line. It's not about the fucking profit. It's about the people first. We need to get back to that shit. This cold-hearted nonsense it's enough already. It needs to end. And I'm here to fucking fight back for that shit. That's what I want to do. I'm a fucking monster at the end of the day. I'm a nice guy. But they could be what? They can have fortitude in their beliefs, and they could be aggressive about what they want, so I could do that in reverse as well. They're not the only ones that know how to fight. But first, I need materials and I need supplies. In the meantime, I'm meditating. I'm trusting God. Your boy's damn near homeless. This has been episode 50, I think 6 of the Irish Spaghetti Podcast. Until next time, God bless and peace. Caw.